is a lot of fun, and many times we fly in and out of Baghdad and some of the other bases over there. I remember one time in particular, we're coming in a C-5. You know C-5s? Those things are huge. Here's my favorite statistic about a C-5. Its usable cargo space is 121 feet long. The Wright brothers' first flight was 120 feet long. They could have taken off and landed inside C-5. It's just amazing. So I would fly with the air crews, and they always loved to have a chaplain on board. It was like I was a 6'7" lucky rabbit's foot, you know. What could happen? The chaplain's on board. So one time we're flying into Baghdad, and you come in at night. C-5s, if you've ever driven down around Dover or some other base that are flying C-5s, those things look like they're just floating along, hardly moving. And it's because they're so big. They're moving pretty quickly, but they are so big, they're quite a target. So we try as much as we can to come in at nighttime. And we would come in on a long, slow approach, and the lights every light would be out in the airplane. I'm in the back of the airplane, up on top of the cargo compartment. I'm lying down on a bunch of seats. That's a whole other story. I just felt if I sat down and bullets came up from underneath, where would they hit me? You know? I didn't want a Purple Heart for being hit there. So we're coming in a long, slow descent, nothing big, and all of a sudden, everything goes bright white, dark, bright white, dark, bright white, dark, and I feel the plane break, and I say to myself, Self, we're shooting out flares right now. And then more flares go out, and then you feel the plane break again the other direction, more flares popped out, and then you feel us break again, and then we touch down a couple minutes later. And the whole crew gathers, and because it's a C-5, that meant there was about 37 of us. No, I'm kidding. There was like 18, which is still huge for a plane's crew. And one of the guys says, "Hey, anybody want to explain what happened?" And they said, "Yeah, we had 2 rockets fired at us, and we did not know, if they were heat-seeking missiles or what. So we dispensed the flares, and we took evasive actions, and then we landed." And everyone's kind of talking, and finally one guy goes, "Chaplain, you ever been in anything like that before?" I said, "You kidding me? I'm a Presbyterian minister. That was like an annual meeting." That's a whole other talk. I said the Air Force medically retired me. It's easy to say that they decided that I had a knee that's going really bad, and I developed a heart issue 2 years ago that I'm now in medicine for the rest of my life. I had 2 shoulder surgeries, and I felt I should get a lot of disability for that. I said, "Hey, I'm a minister. I can't lift stuff with my right arm now. I mean, I can only take collection from this half of the church." They weren't buying it. The VA wasn't buying it. It's easy to tell you about stuff like that. The harder part is to say, and in the interest of transparency for you, they diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder from working 8 years, starting with the embassy bombings back in 1998, for working 8 years in Dover's mortuary, where we process the remains of America's fallen heroes. And I figure that I have helped to process about 1,200 sets of remains, and I don't see the families. I see their loved ones' remains. And my job was to, as a chaplain, and all the chaplains in there who work in there, we come alongside the men and women who are doing the processing for what they are seeing. And there's a degree to which regulations doesn't permit me to tell you what we saw. But my daughter once said, my oldest daughter, she's a great kid, and she says, "Dad, what's it like in the mortuary?" And I said, "Well, honey, let's go see a movie, and at least you'll get an impression of what we see there." And we went and we watched Saving Private Ryan. And if you've seen the first 17 minutes of combat in there, not that we were seeing combat, but we saw the remains of combat. And that's the frustration that I have right now, being diagnosed with PTSD, is the shortened version of that. is they don't know what to do with us folks who've worked in the mortuary, because we've seen more combat deaths than anybody in combat, and they're just not sure to handle that. I share that with you because last year I couldn't have come and done this retreat. I was too deep in depression. I couldn't come out in crowds, and that's when I made the decision to go get help. I've been telling these people in the mortuary for years, when this stuff starts to happen, you go get help. You come and speak to us. And I realized that I reached the point where I needed help. And I went and got it. And I'm still getting it, and I'll probably get it for a while. It's changed my life. And anybody who's ever worked in the mortuary will tell you, we would not trade it for anything. There's no more sacred job in the United States military than to work and to help process the remains of fallen heroes. That really could be a whole nother talk, because I speak at 12 to 15 to 20 men's retreats a year. Run a couple myself in the ministry I'm in, Priority One Foundation. I've come back to that. That's the ministry I was working for when I was activated, and now I'm back in, transitioning back in, trying to get back into full-time ministry. But to tell you the truth, it's tough. So, anything else I want to tell you about that? That was all introduction. Nishart said I had to have you out of here by 10:30. And I want to honor that. Listen, I do a lot of speaking about military things. In fact, look forward in a year or two, you can pray for me. I need your prayers, because I'm trying to write a book. Honestly, I'm trying to write a book. And if it had a title or a theme, it would be what the military could teach the church. And I got to tell you something. There is a lot that the military could teach the church. And if you wanted men's ministry to be transformational in the lives of men, in the lives of your churches, in the lives of the marriages represented here, you'd start to pick up some of this stuff. It is just awesome. And I'm going to have a chapter on woundedness. In the military, when you are wounded, what do you do in the battlefield if you're hit? What do you yell? Medic! Medic, yeah. We yell medic, we're hit. What if you can't yell it? Your buddy does. Your buddy yells it for you. And before the medic can get there, your buddy is there to take care of you, to make sure you're okay. And this is abbreviated. This is extra, no extra cost for you guys here in this retreat. At some point in the very near future, in a hospital somewhere, maybe when you get back to your unit, somebody comes up to you, and what do they give you? They give you the Purple Heart. Now, the Purple Heart does not distinguish between 3 bullet holes in the front, where you were charging the enemy, and it doesn't distinguish between that, or 3 in the back because you were running away. All it recognizes, you were wounded in the battle. It doesn't distinguish between being grazed by a bullet and had to get a stitch or two, or you had both your legs blown off when an IED blew up your Humvee. It doesn't distinguish that. It just says you were in the battle, and we honor that. The church has no concept of that whatsoever. And we men are walking around as wounded men. I watch pastors leave churches because they've been wounded, and no one is there to care for them, to love for them. And they're, what do you do in a church? What do you do in a men's fellowship when things are going bad? When your marriage stinks, when you're addicted to pornography, when you're lonely. How do you yell medic in the church? It's hard to do, because the church doesn't want to hear it for the most part. We don't want to hear that there's a battle out there, a real battle, and there's a woundedness in the lives of men. I hope to get that book out, because it's amazing stuff. But that's not what I want to talk to you about tonight. You got a problem with it? I got snipers around this building.
How much time is spent in New Jersey?
What's that?
How much time did you spend in New Jersey?
Enough. You ever meet my Uncle Guido? Paul, you may want to follow his example. Have you seen him say anything? Just anybody else?